listening to the Successful Mind Podcast.
Successful people learn how to make their minds work for them. I'm David Nagel, and this is the Successful Mind Podcast. Hey everybody, David Nagel here. Welcome to the Successful Mind Podcast. Today, we have an amazing guest, Rod Khleif. And he was just telling me about the story on how he made and lost 50 million. So for those of you that haven't made 50 million yet, or you can even imagine what it would be like to make 50 million, let alone lose it and make it back, I think today's going to be very interesting for all of us. Rod, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, David. Let's have some fun today, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about this. Tell me about this story.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm going to go way back, okay, David, because I think it'll lend framework to what we're going to discuss today. And so I'm an immigrant. I was born in the Netherlands, think wooden shoes and windmills, and immigrated when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert, my mother Svancha. We ended up in Denver, Colorado, and we didn't have much growing up. In fact, I remember shopping at an expired food store. We bought day-old bread because it was cheaper. I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school till I finally lied about my age when I was 14 because I was tall and got a job at Burger King flipping burgers. I remember drinking powdered milk with our cereal in the morning because it was cheaper than real milk. And trust me, it sounds better than it is. So we really struggled. But I knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And she became a bit of an entrepreneur with her babysitting money. She actually invested in the stock market successfully in IPOs, no formal education. She also invested in real estate. Well, her first real estate acquisition was a house right across the street from us that she purchased when I was about 14 for about $30,000. And then when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep and that the property had gone up in value that much. And I said, "What? You made 20 grand? You didn't do anything? Screw college. I'm getting into real estate." So I went and got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18. Back then you could do that. They got smart now. To be a broker and have your own office, you need some experience. But I was a broker. I was smart enough to go work for another one, but still living at home. My first year in real estate, I made about $8,000. My second year, I made about $10,000. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in 1980 was some pretty decent change. So what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy. It's actually the broker I was working for. I was dating his daughter, and he taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology, and how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that, your mindset and psychology. And so fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I've rented long-term. I own thousands of apartment units now. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you might say, wow. And I said, wow. And I got a head so big, I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was a real estate god. And when that happens, God of the universe will give you a nice little smackdown. Well, that's what you referenced. In 2008, I lost $50 million conservatively. And so what I'm known for talking about on my podcast, and I teach my students and teach at my boot camps, is really the mindset, like you say, it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place. But more importantly, the mindset it took to recover from that. I mean, there are people that killed themselves for losing less proportionally in the Great Depression and even in the 08-09 crash. It's sad to say. And so, I'm happy to drill down on that with you more.
It's funny you mentioned that. I had a friend of mine that he went from 100 million net worth to 50 million in the 08-09, and he killed himself over that.
Oh, my God. Oh,
I mean, and the thing was that the guy still had 50 million, but he was he had a very abusive wife. And
let me explain something. See, what he did, and this is really important for where we are in the economy right now. What he did is he tied his identity to his vehicle. Okay, he was his vehicle for wealth, and that's one. If you're listening, I don't care what your business is, whatever your vehicle is, and I'm going to tell you, you should pick it now because there's incredible freaking opportunity coming. Everything's going on sale. All real estate, businesses are going on sale, everything. So pick your vehicle now and learn it as fast as you can, but don't identify with your vehicle. If your vehicle fails, that's fine. You're not a failure. I call them seminars when they fail, okay? That was a $50 million seminar. Now, I have built 27 businesses so far in my career. Several were tens of millions of dollars. I got 2 that are right now, but most were spectacular flaming seminars, okay? We fail our way to success, but do not ever tie your identity to your vehicle. I'm very sorry to hear that your friend did that, man. But he's not the only one, and that's what he did. It became his identity, and you lose your identity, you're done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely. All right, so tell us how this happened. How did you lose 50 million? What because it seems like everything was going
well. It wasn't mindset. It wasn't mindset. I mean, that if you want to focus on mindset, I can tell you how I recovered from losing it or how I got it in the first place. But how I lost it was, I had about 800 houses, and I'll do this real quick. I had about 800 houses, 2 hours north of me, 2 hours south of me, and along the Gulf Coast of Florida. I live in Sarasota, Florida, and everywhere in between. And I had several apartment complexes. It was the houses that pulled me down. And I was only at a 30% loan to value. I only owed 30 cents on the dollar, and I still crashed and burned. So here's why. First of all, these houses were C-class houses. There's A, B, C, and D. A is brand new. D is the hood. Okay. So these were C. So a step above D. Older properties, tougher demographic. They're harder on the properties. So a lot of maintenance. And if I had a maintenance issue at one of my apartment complexes, everything's the same. Plumbing parts, electrical parts, HVAC parts, appliance parts. So you could stockpile those parts, and a maintenance take an hour. They're in and out in an hour. Well, if I had to go an hour and a half one way to see what's wrong at the house, then they have to find a Home Depot or a Lowe's, find parts. It took all day at one of my 800 houses. So they didn't really cash flow well to begin with. But then I discovered after the fact that most of my tenants, a lot of them were contractors, plumbers, electricians, drywallers, painters, roofers, and that fell off a freaking cliff in 2008 and 9. They didn't have work. And so it just crashed and burned. But what's interesting, and the reason I started my podcast 7 years ago was to tell people, if you're going to buy and hold, for God's sakes, do multifamily, don't do single family, because my apartments did just fine. They pulled back, but they would have easily survived if I hadn't cross-collateralized them with packages of houses to save a few basis points on interest rate. And, in my infinite wisdom, I ended up losing everything because I leveraged them with houses, but my apartments did just fine. They pulled back. And so, I started my podcast 7 years ago. I'm blessed to say we just broke 17 million downloads. It's the largest commercial real estate podcast in the world. And I will tell you, the reason it's the largest is, guys, as I focus on mindset, I do these little clips every week called Own Your Power about mindset. So, I hope if you're listening, you'll give it a listen. But anyway, because people don't remember what you said, they remember how you made them feel, right? And that's what we do in our shows.
What's the name of the podcast?
It's called Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. In fact, if you go to rodslinks.com, rods plural, links plural.com, if you're driving, if you text the word links to 72345, there's a lot of free resources there, as well as the link to my podcast. Yeah.
And we'll make sure we get it all down in the show notes.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. So shall we talk about maybe the mindset component to all of this? You want to drill down on that a little?
Yeah. Lay it on me.
Because I think it's so important right now, because there's going to be a lot of fear, of course, don't get me started on the freaking media. You don't even know what to believe anymore. It's almost all crap. And so, it's if you're listening to this or watching this, I know you're a leader, and right now the world needs leaders more than ever. So, it's super important that you pay attention to what you bring in. But, as we go through this, it is critical that you focus on your mindset so you're focused the right direction. So it starts with goals. If you come to one of my boot camps, for example, the first thing we do is goal setting on steroids for the first hour and a half. Because how do you get anything if you don't know what it is? You've got to know what it is you want and why you want it. So that's what you're focused on especially through this period of time that we're heading into. And you have to create what Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich calls a burning desire. You got to want it, okay? And you have to want it bad. You create that hunger. And That's how you push through fear. That's how you push through limiting beliefs. Or maybe you're comfortable. Comfort zone's a nice, warm place, and nothing freaking grows there, right? So, you've got to create that burning desire. And when you have that, that's the impetus for success. And I would encourage you to find what you love as part of that process. By the way, if you go to Rod's links, at the bottom is my goal setting workshop. I do it every New Year's Day. There's a guide you can download. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. Do the goal setting. Here's the sad reality, David. People spend more time planning a freaking birthday party than they do designing their lives. This is designing your life. And so have your spouse do it. Again, it's at rodslinks.com or text links to 72345. It's at the bottom. Guide you can download. If you got a kid that's over 10 years old, have them do it. Set them off on the right path. So it starts with goal setting. And that's what I had to do when I lost everything. I reassociated with what I wanted, and more importantly, why I wanted it. And that's the first step. Then I had to make a decision. And maybe you're listening and you haven't taken action on your dreams yet. You deserve more. And back then I had to decide to pick my wimpy ass back up and get up and make something happen again. So I made that decision. Now, when I say decision, I don't mean dip your freaking toe in the water. I don't mean 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I mean, it is done. Okay. You're either all in or you're all out. So you're all in. You make that decision. And you see, the Latin root for the word decision means to cut off. For a great example of a decision would be, if you're going to attack the island in battle, you burn your ships because you're taking their damn ships home. That's a decision. Okay. And that's what I'm talking about here. And once you've decided, you're 100% committed. Okay. And when you're committed, you're like a freaking train on a track. If you're just interested or undecided, you're going to get knocked off track. See that, that decision is what's motivation will get you started. But that commitment after you make a decision is what'll bring you home. And then the next piece is you got to take the first step. I remember between the second and third year, I started knocking on doors of people that were in foreclosure in Denver. I ended up buying 500 houses that way in Denver. But I'm going to tell you, those first few houses were painful. It was scary to go up to somebody's house that's losing their house, but I ended up doing it. And a lot of people are analytical. And I love you. You know who you are. And you have to check off every single box before you make a move. And again, I love you. I know you know who you are. And I'm going to tell you, you're some of the most successful people in my business that I teach how to buy apartment complexes. But you've got to recognize that you're not going to see the whole road before you get started. You got to take that first freaking step. Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith, the next step will be revealed. Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but you got to take that step. That could be sometimes that could be the most important step of your life. Here's the thing I want to tell you. If you get caught in analysis paralysis, I want you to remember this analogy that you can drive all the way across the United States at night with your headlight only seeing 60 feet in front of you. And you'll make it. Now, you may have obstacles, but other people have done it before you. It's the same way with just about anything you pursue. Certainly multifamily real estate. Okay. But you got to take that first step, and this life's not a dress rehearsal. If you're afraid of failure, I'm going to tell you fear regret much more than failure. I'm going to give you an example. There was this nurse in Australia that took care of patients right before they died. She was a hospice nurse. Her name was Bronnie Ware. And she asked him a question, David. And the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it, something like The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? Not living the life I could have lived, living somebody else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. And honestly, I can't think of anything more painful than that. So again, if you're fearing failure, don't fear being in the same freaking place you are right now, a year from now or 2 years from now, unless you absolutely love where you are right now. Okay. And I'll share a story with you. Another thing that holds people back is fear and limiting beliefs. And let's talk about fear first. So what is fear? False evidence appearing real, F everything and run, or I like to think it's face everything and rise. But I'm going to tell you, the most successful people on the planet feel fear, but they push through in spite of it. Okay. And that's why the goals are so important, especially in this economic environment that we're getting into. That's why it's so important that once you do your goals, to get pictures, put them around you, to write your goals down on a daily basis, put them around you. But I also want to talk about limiting beliefs. And I actually have a couple things I can show you. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
So when I immigrated to this country, I didn't speak English. Okay. I was 6 years old. I got thrown into school. I found out what bullies were for the first time. I got my ass kicked occasionally. And then my mom, proud Dutch woman that she is, sent me to school in these wooden shoes. And these are the ones we found them in my mom's house when we put her in assisted living. And these leather shorts that Germans wear for Oktoberfest. This is the actual scene of the crime. So I got my ass kicked again, obviously. And then we had bullies at the end of my street that would chase me home. And she'd chase him off with a fly swatter. So the next day, you can imagine what happened. And I came up with this belief system that I wasn't good enough. It's like I used to tell myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? And a lot of people have these negative belief systems. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not analytical enough. That was another one of mine. I'm not young enough. I'm not old enough. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. See, there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS. Because 99.9% of them are BS, but we believe they're real. And so but they really, 99% of the
Let me ask you a question. When did you realize that you had that belief system that you weren't good enough?
I was at a Tony Robbins event. And it was actually like my 6th event. I spent 20 years following Tony around the planet. I was on his team for 8 years, security detail. And it was about my 6th event. And I realized it and I cried for about 30 minutes straight. I'm like, holy shit, that's it. That's what I've been saying to myself because it was subconscious before then. But I'm like, holy shit, that's what it is. And I was like, that's exactly what it is. And so, and see, here's the thing. If you have one of these belief systems, these BS belief systems, and you're consciously aware of it, you may not be consciously aware of it, but if you are, and if you're not consciously aware of it, I would encourage you to start looking in the mirror, start self-actualizing, start working on yourself. Go to a Tony event. If you can see him live, just do it. But work on yourself to identify if you have them. But if you are aware of it, here's what you need to do. Drag it out into the daylight consciously. That's the operative word, consciously drag it in the daylight, look at it with your adult rational mind, recognize that it's BS and has no basis in fact, and I promise you it will diminish. I used to be afraid to raise my hand in class with a room of 20 people. I spoke in front of 1,200 with 1,200 last week in Vegas at an event. I speak in front of thousands of people a year now and in flip-flops typically and shorts and because I've diminished that and I recognize that anybody that rejects me or thinks that I'm not good enough they have their own crap going on. It has nothing to do with me. And so, the next piece is focus. And I started to allude to this earlier as it relates to the news and being a leader and how important right now your focus is as a leader. And so, again, stand guard at the door to your mind. Bring in the good stuff. Every week on my clip, on my podcast, I do a clip called Own Your Power. It's 5 minutes. It's got music. It's in this studio here. And you give me 5 minutes a week, I will juice you. Okay. I promise. So whether you're interested in multifamily or not, just go listen to those if you need a shot in the arm. And I'm really proud of them. There's hundreds of them there. And so, but focus, wherever focus goes, energy flows. And the most successful people on the planet have the highest degree of focus. But here's the thing, and this is why this is so important right now. Whatever you focus on gets larger, both positive or negative. Okay. I get people that call me and ask me, how do I get out of student loan debt? And I'm like, the wrong question. How do you make so much freaking money that debt's irrelevant? That's the right question, okay? Because whatever you focus on gets larger. They asked Mother Teresa when she was alive if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. I mean, it's a play on words, but you get it, and right. And so, focus is so important and you don't want to dilute your focus either. I remember, I told you multiple businesses. And I remember in Denver, I had frozen yogurt shops. I had vending carts. I had a carpet cleaning business and everything suffered. And I got rid of everything because my focus was diluted. I got rid of everything and just bought houses again. And I killed it when I did that. And so focus is power. And it's important for you to minimize distractions as well. Like, I don't know about you, but I'll be watching Netflix and my dumb ass will be here scrolling through social media or something. But see, that kills your focus, right? Because your brain's making these micro decisions. I will give you an example here. I get excited about my 17 million downloads. I listen to 2 podcasts, Tim Ferriss and Joe Rogan. And those guys get that a week on each one of those. But I try to get both sides of the aisle, and I'm definitely on one side more than the other, trust me. But I try to keep balance. But On the dark side, let's call it that way, I listen to Tim Ferriss, and I will tell you that it's very intellectual conversation, but he interviews the best of the best in the world, the best athletes, Michael Phelps, NFL, NBA players, actors like Ed Norton and Hugh Jackman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jamie Foxx, the billionaires like Ray Dalio, CEOs of the biggest companies in the world like Zuckerberg. And I started to hear a pattern, David. They almost all freaking meditate. What does meditation enhance? Focus, right? So take this conversation about focus very, very seriously. Now, the next piece I would say, and you just stop me anytime here, brother, because I keep going here. Okay. So the next piece I would say is play to your strengths. Like in the multifamily real estate game, which is what I teach, there's multiple hats that someone can wear. And so I'm going to tell you, play to your strengths, and in any business, whether it's real estate or not, but in any business, focus on building your strengths. Don't try to maximize your weaknesses. Why? Because success comes much faster if you're playing to your strengths. Hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. And because here's the other thing, when you love what you do, success is inevitable, and you never work another day in your life, right? You're loving what you do. And here's the other thing. If you love what you do, you're going to be passionate about it. And if you're passionate about it, you'll be able to influence other people. In the multifamily real estate business, it requires some analysis, but it also requires connection and relationships. And some of the best partnerships I've seen, I've interviewed some of the best operators in the world on the planet. Okay, 100,000 units, 20,000 units, on and on. And the best partnerships I see are an analytical person with an outgoing person, where they're playing to each other's strengths and to each of their own strengths. And I would tell you, don't live someone else's life. But again, when you're doing that, you're going to be passionate, and passion is required to influence people in any business. So do what you love, because if you do, you'll be passionate, and you have to influence people to invest with you, to partner with you, to work with you. And that requires passion. So passion is really the fuel. Don't settle. Don't play small. Figure out what juices you and inspires you, and go do that, because that passion, it breeds creativity. It breeds innovation. It minimizes or even eliminates fear. So super important. The next piece is your peer group. When I was losing everything in 2008 and 2009, I was in Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership, which is this high-level mastermind. It was about 130,000 at the time, all in. It's a lot more than that now, believe it or not. But I was around people that were killing it in that crash, okay, in 2008 and 2009. They were thriving. I mean, they were capitalizing on it. And they're like, get up, you puss, 50 million, schmillion, go make something happen. That's who you want to be around when the shit hits the fan, right? And that's what you want to be around. And so be really careful who you allow to influence you. Here's the sad reality, David. Most people have a peer group of people they went to school with or people they work with. And those people, out of their own fears or limiting beliefs or fear of losing you or fear of feeling like a letdown if you succeed or whatever, they can hold you back. And when your dream is just a dream, it's a fragile thread. It's easy to break. Be careful who you allow to know what it is. Get around people that want more out of life. I'll brag for a second here. I've got coaching students. I've been teaching 5 years, and they're called my warriors. And they now own somewhere between 170 and 180,000 units that we know of. Okay. And most of those are done between warriors. Okay. Because the community is so freaking powerful. See, a rising tide lifts all ships. You want to be around people that want more. So if whatever business you're interested in, if it's real estate, come to my freaking boot camp in September in Orlando. But if it's something else, go learn it right away. Buying businesses, whatever it is, learn it right away. Because like I said, opportunity is coming, but get around people that want more. Go to your local meetup groups for whatever it is you're interested in. Meet people that want more so that you're held accountable, so that you're validated and praised, and like I say, in that Facebook group, the closed Facebook group for my warriors, I mean, it's constant deals closing and people validating and praising each other and helping each other. That's who you want to be around, especially right now. And let me tell you, if you've got some naysayers in your life, and sometimes it's family, love your family, but proactively choose your freaking peers. Very, very important. Yeah. Okay. The last real big piece here I'll talk about is problems and failure. I talked about my 27 businesses and so on, and problems are a gift. We fail our way to success. Problems give you feedback. If you come to my boot camp, you'll get a survey. Can I mention my boot camp real quick, just in case anybody happens to be interested? Sure. So I've got a 3-day boot camp in Orlando. It's September 15th through the 17th. It's not a big sales pitch. It's just 3 days of learning this exciting business that I'm in. And if you use the code David, you can have you can come for literally $197, okay, for 3 days of training. I could charge $3,000 and it would still be a great deal, okay? So $197, use the code David, but you got to go to rodslinks.com, rods plural, links plural.com. My boot camp site is there. Use the code David. You can come for $197. And again, if you come, and it's every aspect of the business, finding deals, evaluating deals, financing those deals, raising all the money you need for your deals, syndicating them, joint venturing, property management. And of course, I spend a good bit of time on mindset. You come, you will leave so freaking juice, you'll be coming out of your skin. I promise. You come, you will laugh, you will cry. It is not like your typical real estate event. It's more like a Tony Robbins event, I will tell you. But there's a reason my students are so freaking successful, because they take action with what they learn. But if you come and you don't love it, I'll give you your money back. I don't mean like it. I mean freaking love it. I'll give you your money back. Okay. So anyway, remember Rod's links, or text links to 72345. Go to the boot camp site, and there's a lot of free resources there as well. The goal setting is there, but if you're coming to the event, just do the goal setting there, full immersion with me. But remember to use the code David for that price. So back to problems and failure. Again, we fail our way to success. And what I was going to say is, you come to my boot camp, you'll get a survey on Monday. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. On Monday, you get a survey because I want to know what you thought. And of course, 99.9% of the feedback is fantastic. The only complaints I typically ever get is the food sucked, or the room was too cold, or something like that. But I'm looking for critical feedback. I want to make it better all the time. But let me talk about failure for a minute. I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx, Sarah Blakely, beautiful human being, her and her husband, Jesse. But I met her at a mastermind, and she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother once a week about, what have you failed at this week? And I thought, what an awesome freaking question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure. Would you agree with me on that, David?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. So anyway, I can take a breath here and let you ask me questions if you're like.
How long did it take you to turn around the loss?
Not long at all. No, I mean, I reassociate. I mean, listen, I hid under a rock for a few months, a little eyeball poking out, feeling sorry for myself, but no, I reassociated with my goals. I figured out, I picked myself back up, kicked myself in the butt, did all the things I just talked about. And I'll tell you something else that I did. I focused on gratitude. Gratitude is super important. You can't be fearful and grateful at the same time. You can't be angry and grateful at the same time. You can't feel bad and be grateful at the same time. Gratitude strengthens our immune system. It makes our heart stronger, lowers our blood pressure, brings us closer to our spirituality. Yeah. But it also attracts everything we want into our lives. Like most mornings, I'll do a little ritual where I'll sit in my recliner and I'll just be grateful for my beautiful wife, my amazing kids, my foundation, my students, but then I'll be grateful for things that I want as if I already have them. And I will tell you, David, sometimes I'll get emotional being grateful for stuff I don't even have yet, okay? And I know some of you analytical ones are like, oh, good God, he's in freaking foo-foo land. Well, this is how I had $50 million to lose and how I got it back. So ignore it at your peril is all I will tell you. Anyway.
Yeah, and the only reason I ask is because we do have people that listen still that lost a tremendous amount business-wise in COVID. They lost. Some of them lost everything. It's a hell of a story. It was just taken away.
Hey, listen. We go through this, and again, remember this: don't be the vehicle. And yes, your business may have failed, but you're not a failure. Just pick your ass back up, innovate, pivot. I will tell you, when COVID hit, I was freaking out because I was supposed to have an event in Orlando with 800 people. I'd sold most of the tickets. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? And if you go, it's possible that the video is still there because I shot it in my backyard like the next day when I knew we couldn't do it. I'm like, we're going to do it virtually. And I did it here. I have a compound in Florida here, and I'm blessed. And I was able to turn one of the rooms into a video studio where I'm at right right now. And we did it virtually. Nope, I didn't lose anybody because I went way overboard. I gave them a whole bunch of free stuff and told them they could come to the next live event and so on and so forth. But I had to innovate. I had to pivot. Now I will tell you, when I lost everything, and so this is for those people that lost everything. When I lost everything in 2008, I had to reinvent myself. And I remember I started a litigation support company, and it turned into a $10 million company with 60 employees that I sold a few years ago. But I will tell you, in 2010, I almost had to bankrupt it, and I had to innovate again. I won't go into the detail of it, but I had to do something nobody'd ever done before. So if you are in that place right now, I know it's uncomfortable, but just recognize that there's that anything you give your full attention to will flourish. And if you have to innovate or pivot, it's okay. There's only one constant in life, and that's change, right? And so, just push through it. Trust me, you'll be able to push through it.
That's awesome. Rod, thank you so much.
Hey, do we have time for one last thing, or are we out of time?
Yeah, do it. No, go ahead.
Okay. I want to share something real quick. Okay. Because it's real powerful. So, when I lived in Denver, I always knew I wanted to live on the beach. Okay. And obviously there's no beach in Denver, but I would visualize the palm trees and the surf and the sand. And 20 years later, I built this $8 million, 10,000 square foot mansion on the beach, which is really literally right across the bay from me where I am right now. It's kind of funny. God's got a sense of humor because I lost that in the craziness, but it was an amazing house. A waterfall from the second floor balcony to the pool. Pool was in magazines, big spiral staircase up to the middle of the house. It was a Gulf to Bay. I owned the beach on one side and I had my boats on the backside. It was like a slice through an island. I mean, it was unthinkable when I was 18, but I made it happen. But I'll land the planes with this wine cellar, elevator. On the second floor, I had aquariums built around the staircase, cost me almost $200,000. So this gives you an idea of the house. So 2 months after I moved in, I'd worked for this thing for 20 freaking years. 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night and I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. It was to prove the world I was good enough, right? And I got depressed. And I don't mean a little depressed. I mean, I was really depressed. I'm like, what the hell? I just achieved success like times 10,000. My family's inside sleeping. I had all the toys, the boats, the jet skis, all the stupid shit, the Maserati and the 2 Mercedes and on and on. But what was going on, David, was three things. One is you should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it. Like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. You need a vision for the future, right? So that was number one. Number two is it's never about the goals. You need the goals to create that burning desire. But what do they say? The happiest days of a boat owner's life, the day they buy the boat and the day they sell the boat, right? And so, but you got to have them to push through. But really, happiness comes from growth and progress. And if you do my goal setting, by the way, at the end of it, I do a weekly planning process. And one of those pieces of that process is to acknowledge any growth that you had or anything you did. I don't care how small it was the previous week. Acknowledge it consciously, because then you'll be happy, even if you have setbacks or delays. But the third big piece was I was totally focused on me, David. Rod. Show the world I'm good enough. Show the world I matter. And that was the year I met Tony. I went and saw him live in Fort Lauderdale because I knew I had to get it back. And I read one of his books. I'm like, okay, I like this guy. I'm going to go see him. And I found out that he fed families for the holidays. And I was like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. And I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. But I called my brother because I was going to go visit him back in Denver. And I said, bro, let's feed 5 families for Thanksgiving, because I was going to go see him for Thanksgiving. And so he called his church and he found 5 families that really needed help. And we bought food and toys and everything and frozen turkey and all that. And the third family changed my life, David. We go up to this house. It's not even a 1-bedroom. It was a crappy 1-bedroom. There's a woman in there with 5 kids, Hispanic woman. And she comes out and she sees all this stuff on the porch. She starts crying. Her kids come out. 2 of the older ones start crying. I start crying and I'm hooked. And I'm blessed to say in the last 23 years, David, we've fed somewhere between 130 and 140,000 children here in Sarasota and Bradenton, Florida. We've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies. We're doing 1,700 here in 2 weeks. We've done tens of thousands of teddy bears to local police departments for officers to keep in their vehicles in case they encounter a child that's been traumatized. I formed something called the Tiny Hands Foundation. And I don't say this to brag. There's a real message in this. And that is, Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. See, I was happy, but I was successful, but I was unfulfilled back then. And, I will tell you, most people believe that you have to achieve to be happy. Okay. Like you shouldn't be happy until you've achieved. But if you're giving back, you're happily achieving. And I know it's a play on words. Like I said, Tony calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science. You want to learn multifamily real estate? Get your butt to my boot camp. I'll tell you what to do. You just got to go do it. I'll give you the blueprint or the map. But fulfillment is an art. You got to find out what juices you. For me, it's kids. Maybe for you, it's animals or the environment or the elderly, and give back right now. Don't say I'll do it when I have money. Do it right now because the money will come faster. That's the way God or the universe works. So I just wanted to leave you with that, buddy.
Awesome. That's amazing. I love hearing that about the Tiny Hands Foundation. That's really cool.
Thank you. Thank you
so much. I know that everybody
it's a pleasure to meet you, brother.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Check out his goal. Check out his goal program, his goal seminar.
Thanks.
And we wish you all the best, brother. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
All right. You too.
Right.
Take care, buddy.
Now.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Successful Mind Podcast. If you like what you heard and you want to learn more, go to lifeisnowinc.com. I'll see you next week.